even some non-alcoholic beers as well. I've tried some and they're actually very, very tasty.
And two, I think just really, the vibe. Whatever type of vibe you're looking for, you can find it. I mean, there's kind of the dark, kind of vibey spots. There's big, open, bright, colorful. There's great patios covered in greenery. Just, any vibe you're looking for, you can find it here.
All right, so now we've talked about, foods. Now we want to switch over to neighborhoods. I know that where we are in downtown Minneapolis, definitely our downtowns are hustle and bustle. That's where the action is. But for us, we really think that the neighborhoods is what makes our city so special. And more than likely, these will be the areas where you'll be potentially living in. Unless you choose our downtowns, which are also livable. So now we want to just kind of walk you through some kind of the great neighborhoods that we offer here in the Twin Cities. So for the next slide, Chelsea?
Yeah, there's not one, but two Hmong marketplaces in St. Paul. St. Paul has one of the largest Hmong populations in the United States, and we're really proud to have them here and these great assets that they bring to our community. So these marketplaces are truly immersive experiences. I mean, they got big, you can kind of see some of the shopping, but they have like big aisles where you can walk and shop at these different stands. Great farmers market type produce and great food as well. Lots of different stands where you can try many different types of Hmong food. So highly recommend if you have not been to one of them. They are very cool to see.
When visitors come to our visitor center, oftentimes they will ask, hey, do you have a Little Italy here or a Chinatown, like in many other large cities? And while we don't have that, we definitely have districts that we'll talk about. One of them being Eat Street. It's just south of us here on Nicollet Avenue. And one of my favorite places to just pop in and get some food, even for takeout, especially as we experienced that during the pandemic. But this is a 10-block stretch, as you can see by the map. It's in the heart of the Whittier neighborhood. So anywhere between Franklin Avenue and Lake Street, you literally will find dozens and dozens of sit-down, walk-up, cafeteria-style restaurants that you can partake in from literally around the world. So definitely a great location. And then there's some popular ones that have been there probably for years. For example, that Black Forest Inn, a German restaurant. I think they've been there since like 1965. Other are popular too. Eat Street Social is a big one. Pimento Jamaican Kitchen is one of my favorites. And then being that I have Mexican parents, I can't pass up the tacos and the Mexican restaurants on Eat Street.
A lot of good options. St. Paul's West Side is really known for its Latinx community and the food. El Burrito Mercado is kind of a staple of the neighborhood. It's been there since 1979, and it's a full restaurant. There's like a walk-up line, so you can just walk up and get food, kind of express style. And then they have a full market and bakery where you can, so many options, all the different salsas and things, anything that you could need to make kind of the ultimate Mexican meal at home. And then Hamburguesas El Gordo, gigantic burgers and great tacos. They're always doing crazy things with their burgers. I don't know how people fit them in their mouths, but really awesome food.
If you're not too sure, based on sometimes you have to drive somewhere, park, worry about that, a great place that's all indoors is called the Midtown Global Market in South Minneapolis. This is a wonderful place. It used to be an old Sears building that was retrofitted a couple decades ago. And here you would find over 45 vendors representing a global market. So think of restaurants, baked goods, artisans, also some great sit-down restaurants as well, including even a brewery inside East Lake Brewery. And then also don't forget, next to Midtown Global Market is the Midtown Greenway. So if you have any bikers in the room or online, it's a great way to access the Midtown Global Market is through our many trails in the city.
Another really cool experience is the Black Market MSP. It is a Black business marketplace. I believe it happens once a month at the Lab, which is a brewery, so kind of win-win. There's music, food, shopping, just a really great atmosphere and a fun way to connect with Black businesses in St. Paul. Another way to celebrate, and it's coming up here in 2 weeks, I believe, August 7th, is the Little Africa Festival, celebrating Minnesota's African culture with music, dancing, art, food, a parade. They're shutting down a portion of Snelling Avenue just north of University for the entirety of the event this year. So I think it's going to be bigger and better than ever, and it's really fun.
And lastly, if you wanted to just simply go to a website and get some really good information to plan all these wonderful trips out to our cultural districts, do check out Minneapolis.org, and there you would find our Minneapolis cultural districts. We teamed up with the city of Minneapolis, and a few years ago, the city of Minneapolis designated 7 cultural districts throughout the city. And you can kind of see them here on the screen, but the beauty here is that the website definitely highlights maybe those main anchors that you would want to visit, whether they're restaurants, shops, studios, galleries, and I think we did a really good job of also bringing in a locals perspective. So we either had a photographer or somebody who actually lives in these neighborhoods to help us tell the story of these great neighborhoods to the general public. All right, so then we also want to talk about transit. It seems like we haven't talked about that, and I'm a big transit person. Even though I love my car, I love to just take transit because it's so easy. This morning, I actually had a couple that had come in from Serbia. I had to look it up where Serbia was, but they were complimenting us on how great transit we have here in the Twin Cities. So for me, it doesn't get better than Metro Transit, what we have to offer. And we have a couple of slides here that we want to just point out some things. So keep in mind that even at its most basic fare, if you haven't used transit, it's a simple $2 fare. It does bump up in rush hour for $2.50, but the beauty that I like to say is it's a $2 fare that's good for any bus, any train, any direction for 2.5 hours. So just a great opportunity to see the city at its basic fare of $2. There's also, keep in mind, in both Minneapolis and St. Paul, there is a downtown zone. Oftentimes that doesn't get mentioned, but keep in mind, like from Minneapolis, the convention center, to almost the river, or here, Target Center or Target Field next to us, to US Bank Stadium, you can take a one-time 50-cent trip in the downtown area in Minneapolis and also in St. Paul. In Minneapolis, we also have a free ride. This runs along Nicollet Mall, and it goes between the Convention Center and Washington Avenue. So that's also a great service for transit folks. And then also, if you will be here, hopefully you will be, you could definitely check out the various cards that Metro Transit offers. Go-To card is very much like a debit card that you could use, and there you would just add 5, 10, 30, 40 bucks into it, and now instead of fumbling for cash or coins, you just tap and go into the bus or the train. And then also there's some really good options as well that you can use in both Minneapolis and St. Paul. There's a 7-day pass that you can add to your Go-To card, or a 31-day pass. And then finally, also keep in mind that Metro Transit also works with employers, so if you aren't doing this already, do check with your employer, because oftentimes there is a Metro Pass, it's called, and the Metro Pass gives you, basically for one set fee a month, unlimited rides throughout the entire month. Finally, I'll mention, it's kind of a spaghetti of lines here that it's hard to read, but I just wanted to point out how many bus routes we have. Hundreds of bus routes, 2 train routes, one between Minneapolis and the Airport Mall of America, and the other one between Minneapolis and St. Paul, which has been great ridership between the two cities. But between that, again, lots of places that you can see and explore without having to use your car. And then lastly, a quick tip I like to use is every single bus stop has a number. So find that number, and now if you're going to be going into work or you're leaving work, check out that number, and there's a program called Next Trip, and that literally tells you live when the next bus or train is coming. So now you can just be in the comfort of your cubicle, shut down and run to catch your bus. So.
And I think it's worth pointing out too, just from an accessibility perspective, both the Twin Cities are very bikeable. There's lots of designated bike routes, but also you can bring your bike with you on the transit, the light rail, and the bus, making it really easy to get around.
All right, so one of the major things that brings people to the Twin Cities, again from that 5-state region, even international. A couple of weeks ago I met a fellow from Mexico that was a die-hard Vikings fan, and he was so happy that he was going to go enjoy a game at US Bank Stadium. So we wanted to make sure that we highlighted our wonderful pro sports, especially being in the building here. So let's start off with
The XL Energy Center, home of the Minnesota Wild. They made it to the playoffs this year, so it was a pretty exciting time in downtown St. Paul. The XL Energy Center is located kind of right in the heart of downtown, West 7th neighborhood. It's super walkable. It's got a lot of great restaurants in the area, and it's just a really fun experience. The XL Energy Center has a lot of concerts and things like that. I just saw, I think Post Malone was just announced a few days ago, and Lizzo will be here soon. So yeah, really cool area, really accessible stadium.
I mentioned US Bank Stadium, home of the Minnesota Vikings. Don't forget there are stadium tours that you can check out. Those are only $29, and oftentimes, I should say, it's common to see events at Commons Park. Anybody? Did you see that? At Commons Park? Oh, I'll be here all day, you guys.
Allianz Field, home of the Minnesota United. This is a relatively new stadium. It was built or finished in 2019. If you have never been to a professional soccer game before, I hadn't before going to a United game, it is a super fun experience, just different than any other sporting event that I've ever attended. There's just so much energy. There's a drum line, there's chants. It's just a really cool experience if you've never done it before.
It is summer. You could still catch a baseball game literally behind us here at Target Field. Games are right now through September, and then you can actually do a public tour as well for $20 of the stadium.
Slightly more pocket wallet-friendly version of a baseball game is the St. Paul Saints at CHS Field. They're a minor league baseball team and a Twins affiliate. Bill Murray is part owner of the team, if that tells you anything about what your experience might like when you are there. They have really fun, weird kind of intermission activities, and then below you see every year they have a new pig that they bring in. That's kind of their little mascot for the year, and then there's a contest to name him. This year the pig's name is 867530 Swine, so it's kind of fun.
And of course Target Center, home of the Minnesota Wolves, but also you have the Minnesota Lynx, which are 4-time WNBA title champs. Come on, everybody, we got it. That's a big deal, 4-time, right up there almost every other year, as you can see. So definitely got to catch a game. Come back if you can. Games for the Minnesota Lynx are through August 12th. The last home game is August 12th, so definitely check that out. And then lastly, University of Minnesota. I know one of the panelists talked about that, but definitely home to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. And then that season starts in September as well. All right, so we're almost done, you guys. Bear with us for a few more minutes. So now we just wanted to, again, touch on maybe some locals' perspective. Chelsea and I, what are some of the best places that we would recommend that you guys check out? So again, make some note of the following.
The Cathedral Hill neighborhood, aptly named so because it's in the shadow of the St. Paul Cathedral that you see there in the background. It's got beautiful architecture, like the Blair Arcade building that you see there in the foreground. A lot of great restaurants. Pictured there is celebrity chef Justin Sutherland at his restaurant Handsome Hog for great barbecue, great patio. And it's just, the whole neighborhood is just really quaint and quintessential and walkable, lots of great restaurants and stores. Definitely a must visit.
And arguably the most popular destination in Minneapolis is the chain of lakes. So the city does boast over 22 lakes in its city limits, but the 3 most popular lakes that you will find in Minneapolis are known as the chain of lakes, which is Lake of the Isles, Bde-Maka-Ska, and Lake Harriet. And within the 3 chain of lakes, literally so many things that you could find. Anything from public beaches, volleyball courts, walking, biking trails, fishing piers, dog parks, you name it. And actually what's really nice about the chain of lakes is that it's actually part of a bigger system known as the Grand Rounds, which I'll talk about next. But also keep in mind that it's also part of a bigger group of parks known as the byways. So definitely a place to check out. And then I would definitely recommend in between Baie-Makaska and Lake Harriet, there's some beautiful rose gardens, and then there's also a bird sanctuary to check out.
Another cool spot is the Creative Enterprise Zone, or the CEZ. They have, by the end of the summer, there's going to be over 43 murals in this neighborhood as part of a placemaking project. And every year they commission artists to come in and paint anywhere from 10 to 15 different walls in the area. It's really kind of an industrial area if you're in it, but it has a really buzzing arts community. So you can kind of, there's maps online and things like that you can kind of plan a walking route and go see some really incredible murals. I know there's not a ton of you in here yet, but has anybody had a Juicy Lucy while they've been here?
Yes.
If you haven't, you have to. I mean, there's cheese on the inside of the burger. Need we say more?
Actually, we do, because if you go to Matt's Bar, it's a cash-only place, and none of us carry cash anymore. So do make sure that if you go to Matt's Bar, one of our favorites, definitely bring some cash with you.
The swan boats at Como Lake. I don't know if anybody has seen these kind of, images floating around on social media yet, but Como Lake, next to the Como Lakeside Pavilion, where you can eat and drink at Dock and Paddle. They're rentable, they're super fun, and then if you can see at that picture there, they light up at night, so you can rent them at nighttime and take them out. So highly recommend.
And I teased you about this a little bit earlier, but the Grand Rounds in Minneapolis, one of the things that the Founding Fathers of Minneapolis wanted to do is just offer accessibility to lakes and parks, and I think they did that well with the Grand Rounds. So in the city of Minneapolis, you can literally walk, bike, drive around our wonderful parkways, our lakes, and it's actually a 50-mile system. So you could either drive that, walk it, bike it, but again, as you can see on the map on the left-hand side, literally encompasses the entire city of Minneapolis, and then throughout that system, you will run into interpretive sites that talk about the various places that you're visiting, whether that's a lake, a trail, or other things throughout the system. And then lastly, again, this is part of a bigger system that is part of the Mississippi River byway system that encompasses Minnesota, but also the other states leading down to New Orleans.
If you're in St. Paul on a Saturday or Sunday morning, you need to find your way down to the St. Paul Farmers Market. It was voted #2 best in the nation by USA Today just in 2022 here. It's year-round, every Saturday and Sunday, aside from great produce, great coffee, flowers, there's free Pilates.
And again, it's so hard to tell you everything in 40 minutes that we have here with you guys. So just wanted to highlight some top events and festivals in the metro area. Basilica Block Party here in Minneapolis, Rock the Garden. In St. Paul, you have the Hmong New Year, Twin Cities Film Festival. Goes without saying, the second largest by attendance state fair in the country, the Minnesota State Fair, where you find all sorts of food on a stick. If you don't know that reference, check it out or go there. You'll definitely know what we're talking about. And then one of my favorites here in Minneapolis is called Open Streets. There's 3 more open streets happening the rest of this summer, but it's an opportunity where the city shuts down a very long stretch of a major thoroughway, and they will invite the businesses, residents to come out and just bike that street instead of having vehicles. So it's a great opportunity to meet neighbors. We talked about that, right? To be able to get to know your neighbors or new friends, especially if you guys decide to stay and work here in the Twin Cities.
So next, we're just going to highlight 2 of our favorites. The first one I'm going to talk about, and we're not going to gloss over the fact that there is a winter here that sometimes can get a little long. But what I think is great about the Twin Cities is that we really embrace the cold and being outside and finding any excuse possible to get out. So one of the oldest civic celebrations in the country, this was a new fact for me, is the Winter Carnival. It was started in 1886. Goes for 10 days. There's ice sculptures, there's a parade, there's a warming tent, thankfully, where you can get some food and beverage, and most of the events are completely free. I also want to highlight, just an honorable mention, is the Glow Holiday Festival. They really light up. It was at the fairgrounds, and I'm not going to tell you where it's at this year, but it has a new location, and it's going to be really fantastic. So highly encourage you to get out to these events in the winter, put your warmers and your gloves and your boots and do it.
Enough about winter, let's talk about summer, which is right now. And actually, speaking of right now, the Minneapolis Aquatennial festivities are actually happening this week. These are known as the best days of summer. So starting tonight, we actually start with the Torchlight Parade. So if you guys aren't doing anything after this event, stick around downtown, happy hour, enjoy some dinner, and then on Nicollet Mall, starting at 7:30 between 12th Street and Washington, you will have the Minneapolis Aquatennial Torchlight Parade. So that goes for about an hour or so. And then I wanted to point out two other things too. On Friday, there's a very unique event called the Twin Cities River Water Ski Show. That happens over in the Northeast Minneapolis area. You can find all this at the aquatennial.com website. And then finally, something not to miss, oftentimes better than our 4th of July fireworks, is the fireworks put on by Target for the Aquatennial festivities, which is Saturday. About 9:30, 9:45 on the Riverfront District. So if you don't have plans on Saturday, check out the fireworks. Those are a lot of fun to see. All right, and then lastly, we'll just talk a little bit about live music. We are literally next door to First Avenue, home of Prince, right? Prince made First Avenue famous, so you have some wonderful, wonderful live music venues, so definitely consider that as you guys are out and about. There's a beautiful new Prince mural just outside of our space here as well, and then even just some great places where you can have dinner and then listen to music as well, like the Dakota Jazz Club in downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah, I think between the two Twin Cities, you can really find music any night of the week. There's, so many opportunities. In St. Paul, we have the Palace Theater. It was shut down for a number of years, but recently it was renovated and reopened. It's absolutely beautiful. The Ordway, Broadway shows, home of the Minnesota Opera, if kind of the theater angle is your thing. And then, I know we mentioned this already, but outdoor music, Blues and Funk Festival, Jazz Festival, Lower Town Sounds, Groovin' in the Garden, lots of opportunities to watch music outside as well.
All right, guys, well, we're at time, and I'm actually really good on time, so I hope you enjoyed this. It wasn't too painful for you guys that came out. Thanks so much for listening to us. We'll stick around a little bit if you guys have questions, but obviously check out our websites where you will find a lot of the information that we mentioned, as well as our social media channels.
Yeah, thanks for having us here today, and hope you learned something.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you to Michael and Chelsea for that tour. Right now, we are going to take a 10-minute break. So stand up, stretch, take care of your needs. And then after the break, we've got one more session. So if you've signed up for a different session, you can check the Jumbotron and out in the halls to figure out where you need to go next. But if you've registered to learn more about the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, to dive even deeper, we're going to have a great panel here talking more about food and events and culture. If you're tuned in online, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. So let's take a break. Thank you.
Think about it. There must be a higher love down in the heart or hidden in the stars above. Without it, life is a wasted time. Look inside your heart and I look inside mine. Things look so bad everywhere in this whole world. What is fair? We walk the line and try to see, falling Bring me a higher love. Oh, oh, bring me a higher love. My love, it's that higher love. I keep thinking of. Bring me higher love. Bring me higher love. Bring me higher
Can't make friends. Pray for better days. Now it's 300K when my day ends. Do you remember last night? Cause I blacked out in that all-white dress with a back out. Said be careful with her heart cause it's fragile. And thinking about her past make her lash out. See with me it ain't no worries at all. Any problem I'll be there in one call. If we locked in, you my dog. Finna you hang pictures on my wall. Roll one, let's get high tonight. Backseat Maybach, lavish life. Chillin' with the stars like a satellite. AP on my arm and it's shining bright.
Living in the haze, staying in the shade. All I do is sit around and wait for better days. I could use a break. Can I get an amen? All I do is sit around and wait for better days. Sit around and wait. Better days. I can use a break. Better all I do is sit around and wait for better days. Better days. All I do is sit around and wait for better days.
Baby, ya yo me enteré. Se nota cuando me ves. Ahí donde no has llegado, sabes que yo te llevaré. Y dime qué quieres beber. Es que tú eres mi bebé. Y de nosotros, ¿quién va a hablar si no nos dejamos ver?
Y a veces es dolce, a veces es vulgar. Y cuando te lo quito, después de los paris, las copas de vino, las libras de mar. Tú estás bien suelta, yo de safari. Tú me ves lo fenomenal, pa' yo devorarte como animal. Si no te operas, yo te voy a esperar. En mi cama y lo voy a celebrar.
Baby, a ti no me pongo y siempre te lo pongo. Y si tú me tiras, vamos a nadar en lo hondo.
Si por mí te lo pongo, de septiembre hasta agosto. A mí sin lo que digan tu amiga, ya yo me enteré. Se nota cuando me ves. Ahí donde no has llegado, sabes que yo te llevaré. Dime qué quieres beber, es que tú eres mi bebé. Y de nosotros, ¿quién va a hablar si no nos dejamos ver?
Mami, me tienes juqueado, sí. Si fuera la Uru, me tuviese
hace tiempo le rompieron el cora. Estudiosa, puesta para ser doctora. Pero le gustan los títeres huirleando motora. Yo estoy pa' ti las 24 horas.
Baby, a ti no me pongo y siempre te lo pongo. Y si tú me tiras, vamos a nadar en lo hondo. Si por mí te lo pongo, de septiembre hasta agosto.
Y a mí sí, en lo que digan tu amiga, ya yo me enteré. Se nota cuando me ves, ahí donde no has llegado, sabes que yo te llevaré. Y dime qué quieres beber, es que tú eres mi bebé. Y de nosotros, ¿quién va a hablar? Si no nos dejamos ver.
Yo soy dolce, yo soy vulgar y cuando te lo quito, ponte los paris, las copas de vino, las libras de más. Tú estás bien suelta, yo de safari, fenomenal. Pa' yo devorarte como animal. Si no te has venido, yo te voy a esperar. En mi cama y lo voy a celebrar.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start the activities in about 60 seconds. We got 1 minute to go.
Let me check my chest, my breath right quick. He ain't never seen it in a dress like this. He ain't never even been impressed like this. Probably why I got him quiet on the set like zip. Like it, love it, need it, bad. Take it, own it, steal it, fast. The boy stop playing, grab my ass. Why you acting like you shy? Shut it, save it, keep it pushing. While you beating round the bush and knowing you want all this woman. Never knock it till you try. All of them saying I have you with me. All of my saying you mad committed. Really to anybody you had them pretty. All of the body I need out. Day, night, and morning, keeping me in the moment. I bet you hadn't known it. Why don't you say so? Didn't even notice. No punches that to roll it. You got to keep me focused. You wanna say so? Day, night, and morning, keeping me in the moment. I bet you hadn't known it. Why don't you say so? Didn't even notice. No punches that to roll it. You got to keep me focused. You wanna say so?
Well, welcome back. Thanks to everyone still tuned in online. We appreciate your engagement. Before the break, we got a wonderful tour of Minneapolis and St. Paul from Michael and Chelsea. And now, if there's one thing that's true of any community and life in general is change. And a lot has changed here in Minneapolis and St. Paul in the last decade. in the arts, in food, and culture. And so I'd like to bring up Matt Lewis, who's been part of the Greater Minneapolis team for most of that time. Matt is responsible for helping to power several of the efforts that you've heard about today, and outside of his role at Greater MSP, has been part of several organizations working to make change across the region. Please welcome Matt Lewis.
All right. Hello in the room. Hello at home, wherever that is around the world. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce a great panel we've got lined up for you today of change makers and people who are involved in many dimensions of our community here in the region. So I'll ask them to all come up at the same time and share a little bit more about them. So welcome to the stage. First, Chance York is the host of Outside Chance. He's a holistic wellness professional, meditation guide, and hip-hop artist. He was featured performing in his backyard on TPT, that's Twin Cities Public Television series Pandemic Performances, and he now hosts Outside Chance, a web series featuring new and traditional outdoor activities that highlight Minnesota's outdoor culture. He's currently involved in projects with the leadership of the YMCA of the North, Minneapolis Heart Institute Foundation, and PBS Education. Welcome, Chance. To Chance's right is Golnaz Yamoutpour. She's the founder of Eat, Drink, Dish Minneapolis. She's a creator and founder of Eat, Drink, Dish, an award-winning restaurant discovery and recommendation platform based right here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was founded in 2014, and Eat, Drink, Dish was created as a way for Golnaz to express her love of dining, local businesses, and to build a connection as an immigrant growing up here in Minnesota. And she did this through sharing content, offering experiences, and producing events. And over the years, the Instagram page for Eat, Drink, Dish received several awards and recognitions for its authentic, reliable restaurant recommendations and became a really trusted resource for chefs, restaurants, foodies looking to connect to the growing and vibrant food scene here in our region. Welcome, Golnaz. So glad you're here. And last but not least, to my left is Andrea Graham, Senior Consultant with Minnesota Sports and Events. Andrea is a Minneapolis-based brand experience consultant who spent the last 15 plus years producing events and experiences all across the United States. She recently partnered with the Minnesota Sports and Events and the Minnesota Local Organizing Committee that was responsible for bringing the 2022 NCAA Women's Final Four Championship Tournament to this arena. If you look up, well, it's blocked off today, to like the worst seat in the house, you'll find where I was sitting watching those games. You maybe had a little bit better view, but it was a great event. In addition to that, with a passion for community building and a need to create work that positively impacts the world around us, Andrea has also worked with the Minnesota Festival and Events Association, Twin Cities Catalyst Music, St. Paul Downtown Alliance, Towerside Business Alliance, the Basilica Block Party, many other organizations in the region, many other events that she'll tell us about today. So we've got, welcome, Andrea. We've got a wonderful panel, and one of the ways I think about it is like a lot of like slash, people who live in multiple communities and bring that experience and those dimensions into maybe the community that they're going to talk about the most today. And so I'm really excited about that. I moved back to this place. This is my chosen home about 12 years ago. So the first time I moved here, it wasn't my choice, it was my parents' choice. But I made the choice to move back here for a variety of reasons. I'm really glad that I'm here. And as I was reflecting on why I made that choice before today when we were preparing for this, there were kind of three things that are advice that I would give no matter what place you decide to go after you're done with school and you start your career. Hopefully you find that wherever you go, but three things that I found here that I think you'll find here too. One of them is to look for a community where the amenities or the things that you want to experience, whether that's in the workplace or outside of the workplace, are not only available, but accessible. And it's really hard to find both. You can find places where there's a lot to do. I just came back, I spent the last 5 days in New York, right, bouncing between Brooklyn, Manhattan, and there's certainly a lot of things to do there. It's not all accessible. Can't afford it all. It's really hard to do some of those things. And then there's other places where it's easy to access, but they don't really have maybe the vibrancy or volume of amenities. So finding a place that you could do both. The second thing for me was to find a community that's as complex as you are. Not a one-note place, right, but all these different dimensions, and that's what we're going to explore today. And that's what I've found here. And then the third is really a community that has its own voice, that tries to be the best version of itself, not like a second-rate version of some other place, that's really unique. And I think you're going to find that today, and we're going to explore different dimensions of that in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'm not going to put pressure on any of you to speak for like the entire community or anything like that, and there's so many dimensions of Minneapolis, St. Paul that we won't cover in just 40 minutes, but hopefully as that context, we can get started here. So my first question for everybody is to really just kind of introduce themselves and share a little bit more about the work they've done. And I'm going to start with you, Andrea. So you've worked on and worked with many of our region's premier events. I listed some of those. They're all great events. So tell us about your background. How did you get into that world of working on events, and what are you up to now with Minnesota Sports and Events?
For sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. So like you mentioned, I've been working in events and experiences for the last 15 years. And I'm from Minnesota originally, so again, so great to come back. And my passion that has always driven the work that I've done has really been in creating new and building things and bringing people together. And so in 2014, I joined the team over at Surly Brewing Company, for those of you who are familiar with them, to build out the new destination brewery that they have over in Prospect Park. And my key role in that was building out their events programming, both private and public, and expanding that and growing that. And then working through, just with the team at First Avenue to build the outdoor concert venue and just all of the different festivals and events they put on around the state. And through that, I met a lot of incredible people, because you can't just do something in a silo. You have to work with those around you. And so that was how I got tied in with the team at Minnesota Sports and Events, which is our new sports commission, to start bringing different events to the region, starting with Women's Final Four coming right out of COVID, which was amazing. It was so exciting to just see the city alive again. And we have a ton going on right now, which is also very exciting. So lots of bids happening. And then in 23 and 24, we are hosting the Big Ten Women's Basketball Championships, and then also in 24, the Big Ten Men's Basketball Championships. I was actually just named the executive director of those tournaments this week. So very exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Very
terrific.
exciting to get going on that, because 9 months is actually not a lot of time to plan a big citywide event. So that's going to be really fun. Everyone should come check it out. But there's just so much going on. And so it's just really fun to do cool things with people that you really enjoy working with.
That's really awesome. So to connect a couple dots, for those who saw the MSP tour that just happened before, so that Prospect Park area, you saw they actually showed people Malcolm Yards, which is a signature food hall in that area. And then this summer, I was just looking at the lineup for the number of concerts that are happening at the field next door. It's really incredible. So check out some of those events over the next few weeks.
It's very fun to see it keep growing.
Well, and then on the sports front, so I'm a sports fan, so moving back here, in the decade that I've been back here, it's kind of incredible. The light rail line that runs through there, you got that tour. Starting on one end, where I lived most of the last decade, down here, just north of here in the North Loop, you have the new baseball stadium, this renovated basketball arena, the new football stadium, the new Big Ten stadium, the new MLS stadium, the new minor league baseball stadium. It's just every 3 stops down, these incredible amenities for someone who's a soccer and a basketball season ticket holder. So thanks for all you're doing to create the vibrancy here in our region. Golnaz, so you created Eat, Drink, Dish to explore culture through your love of food, as we talked about. So tell us more about that effort, and what's the voice and perspective that you wanted to bring into the local food scene?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. This is a great event, and I love talking to the younger community, because I can relate to that, because when I started Eat, Drink, Dish, I was at my first job in mid to late 20s, and I grew up in Minnesota, and it's way more cooler now than it was growing up in the state. So I'm kind of jealous of the younger generation, because they get to experience all this great new developments and culture and just diversity that's really been bestowed upon this state in the last decade or so. As you said, I was an immigrant, so I came here when I was 3. We were, raised in the suburbs, and we really didn't connect with the culture. It was just really hard to do that. So once I went to the U of M, I lived in Minneapolis, and as soon as I started living in the city and really immersing myself into the culture, and food was just something natural that came to me because my parents owned a restaurant, and I just have a love for food, and I also studied nutrition, so I kind of connect the dots for me. While I was at my corporate job, I just got bored, as most of us do, and I really wanted a creative outlet, and at that time, I was also getting my MBA at Augsburg University. And that really was my catalyst into believing that you can really make an impact and change, even though you're one person. Like, that was a whole shift in mindset, especially being an immigrant growing up in the States. So Instagram was just like starting out. The foodie influencer thing was not happening yet, but I knew this was happening in other cities like Chicago and LA. So I was like, well, I want to see what other people are doing. Can we do this here? And I basically just started sharing photos on Instagram and really immersing myself in the culture. I would go to events by myself. I would find out, like, where the pop-up local markets and just show that on Instagram. And then we would have the tag feature, which is a lot of people are familiar with. If you tag in an Instagram account, you'll get reposted. So that's how we started to curate content. So a lot of it was my own content, but I also knew that I didn't have the pockets to go out to eat every day. So I didn't want to be that broke. So I was like, hey guys, tag us. And then that actually just spurred this whole foodie, like everyone wanted to start the Instagram account. We had so many different foodies now. People would come to our events. We would partner with breweries and partner with other restaurants to bring these like really cool tasting events, and it just was so accessible. It's really daunting at first when you start something, but once you just start talking to people that are like-minded and like you can connect with, it's so easy. And it was really just inspiring to know, and like just motivational to see that the community was so responsive. And so that's why I started Eat Drink Dish, and 10 years later, still doing it, and one of the largest accounts on Instagram for Minnesota. So.
That's awesome. Well, it's been incredible to watch it grow. And earlier today, we were talking about systems change, and now we're talking about community and culture. And whatever word we're using, this is collections of people. It's how we organize as people, right? And that gateway into understanding another culture, another community, usually happens with food at the table. I find the best gateway is when food's at the table. So I think the way you've allowed people to explore other parts of our community is really, really cool. So we're glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
Chance, so Minnesota has this really incredible outdoor culture, outdoor amenities. We'll talk about that in a bit. And you're now exploring that through the Outside Chance series. So I'm curious, what prompted your passion for the outdoors and exploring it and wanting to share that with people and invite other people into it?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. For me, I think the outdoors was always a part of my life. Being in Minnesota, we have all 4 seasons. Sometimes they're just offensive how hard we have those 4 seasons. But being outside was just kind of growing up. That was the normal thing. Flash forward to today, and especially with the pandemic, I feel like we spend a lot more time in front of a screen, crouched over, and the outdoors was just a natural return to feeling whole, feeling connected. How I wound up hosting this show was actually through my work as a musician and a wellness educator. So PBS had approached me about shooting this new series called Pandemic Performances in 2020, and they were shooting people outside in their yard. And I was able to just perform a couple of my songs in front of my flower garden. Felt very natural, felt good, and once my interview was finished, it was about a month later, they were like, we have this idea about a show we want to bring about. And just naturally, all it did was reawaken what was already there. I was, as a kid growing up, I got to ski, I got to fish, I had, relatives in the outdoors, Minnesota, Louisiana, and traveling around the country as a musician on tour and stuff, I realized that we're really blessed and privileged how many outdoor opportunities we have. The lakes, the rivers, the park system, the national and state park system as well. And it's just pretty amazing how we take these things for granted until they're all of a sudden not a priority in our life. And then when it became this opportunity, I've just it was the most fun I've ever had outside last summer when we shot our first season. I got to learn how to kite ski behind a giant kite. It was like surfing behind a dragon, like pulling you through across a frozen lake. And I got to learn how to log roll and learn the rich history of like the lumberjacks in the Twin Cities and these weird sports. But also recognizing as this show progressed and the response that I got to it is there's a pretty big inequity or lack of representation of different diverse groups in the outdoors. As often as I was outdoors, I never realized that that what I was doing was was maybe out of the ordinary demographically, and so it was just a natural thing for me. But the amount of possibility and opportunity that's come from me as the face on this show has just really shown that people are curious about the outdoors and also really want more representation and more opportunity. Twin Cities is just a great place where you're always less than a mile from some type of green space, whether it's our huge park system or just a broader wilderness. It's really nice.
Yeah, people may not know, so really over the last decade, there's a group called the Trust for Public Land, and they rank the park systems of cities all around the country. And Minneapolis and St. Paul are usually vying for number 1 and number 2 in the entire country, which is pretty special. When I talk to friends around the world, I often hear them say that live in like cities, like, we're going to go on a day trip to such and such beautiful place that would be maybe like the 5-minute thing just down the street here, which is really great. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into all of these communities that you inhabit, and that sometimes you're the face on the show, but obviously they're not expecting you to know everything about the communities. I'm going to start with Golnaz. So we've seen a lot of a growing number of kind of national accolades for our food scene. The latest one was for the team at Owamni that won the James Beard just a couple weeks ago. But I was just talking to someone backstage, a friend, Ashley, and really like a community's food scene is not necessarily just in those places that maybe you would go out to for a special celebration, but it's in what we eat like every day, every week. That's where you really like test the vibrancy of a food scene. So tell us about the food scene here and kind of what's going on.
Yeah, the food scene here has really exploded since I started Eat, Drink, Dish in 2014. I remember that, I think it was that year, or the next year, there was 40 restaurants that just opened in 1 year. And the Twin Cities is pretty small, so 40 restaurants is a lot. And so one thing that's been happening a lot is that there's been since that time, there's a spur of just creativity and innovation that's been happening in the food scene. And I think it has a lot to do with social media technology, because now we can see what's going on in different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and people are like, oh, I want to do that. So I think with the food scene, even though, yeah, we have amazing chefs here, James Beard award winning. If you guys don't know what that is, it's just like the Oscars of being a chef. We have really great talent here. And the other thing where I get to have a really unique perspective with having this account and being really community focused about it is people reach out to me a lot and be like, hey, I just started a food business. How can I get my voice out there? How can I, can you feature me, or can you come try my food and all that stuff? So I get to see really what the future of the food scene is going to be, and without you guys knowing it, but like I can see like there's so many, especially during the pandemic, so many people were at home and they started their own baking businesses, their own hot sauce businesses. And then now that's basically, they quit their job. One was a lawyer, and she quit her job just to become a baker, because that just makes her happy. So it's just really cool to see that. That also, the other thing that makes that possible is the accessibility. We are still, even though we're a metropolis, we're a smaller metropolis, but you have so much access. It's so much easier to connect with people, to really, if you wanted to get on a radio show, or if you wanted to get on local TV. I didn't realize how easy it was, and it's all you have to do is believe in yourself and have something to talk about. It's really not that hard to really become something here and to start out your career, whatever it is. It's actually really accessible, and people are really out there to help you. The creativity and collaboration in the food scene is something I don't see anywhere else. I've traveled the world. I've lived in California. I've been to New York and all that stuff. it's nothing like those cities. Those are really competitive, and they have awesome food and awesome talent, but they're not really there to help each other. Whereas here, there'll be events and where chefs know each other, the brewery people know each other, distillery people, they all like kind of connect and collaborate. And I've had events, I produce events where we would have different vendors, and those vendors would then connect with each other and create a whole nother like pop-up event or some other like business on the side just through just having the same interests. So I think that's like a huge differentiator, and I think that if you have that passion, if you know what you want to do and want to really get into some kind of subculture here, it's so much easier than doing it in a bigger city.
That's interesting. I think that collaborative spirit that you're describing, I haven't experienced it because I'm not in that food community, but it's very similar to what I see in other communities here. And when I tell people about like today's event, they're like, you got these companies to do this together. And I think that's in the spirit across all of these different communities of being a place, not just making a name and moving on, but being in a place that you want to be invested in working with people for the long haul. And so that's how you show up.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Chance, I mentioned the top-ranked parks districts, but I think what's really important or interesting is how do we as humans use those parks and those trails and those waterways, how we show up. So I'm curious what you see as some of the maybe unique opportunities for people to reconnect with those assets that we have here.
Yeah, I mean, just like we were saying before, how this disconnect kind of happened or was forced upon us by the pandemic, and the uniqueness of this place is it's so close, it's so nearby. If you're not ready for a trip to the Boundary Waters where you go and pack everything in your bag and disappear into the woods for a week, you can just go to a nice park. I live near Bloomington, right by the Mall of America, and there is an unbroken swath of land that people come from all over the country to bird watch. And this is just like, I can ride my bike there. There's where the rivers meet, the Minnesota River, the Mississippi River is just, and it's vast and it stretches for miles. There's literally mountain lions and coyotes that live a mile from the Mall of America. And I think that's really unique, but how we connect to it and what it means for our well-being is kind of stepping out of this hustle and bustle or this, fast-paced lifestyle that's really at unnatural rhythm for our own inner, circadian rhythms and whatnot. Just stepping out into the natural flow of things, watching the river flow by, watching the birds flow by, looking at the bumblebees, the trees, the tall grass blowing in the wind. This stuff is deeply healing to a troubled mind and body that happens when we live in these more or less unnatural landscapes. So the uniqueness of it is that it's close, it's accessible, it's free in many cases, and you can just get deeper and deeper, and and if you're into it, you can just disappear into the woods as well. I just wanted to speak really quickly about the collaborative nature of Minneapolis, Twin Cities, is that it's a little big city, and if you spend time here and you're about what you do and you show up and do that thing passionately, you'll get to know a lot of people. Just in the food scene, it's like Justin Sutherland and I, a very well-known chef, we're good friends. The FEMA's another family that I know through the music scene. And, 8 years ago, my band, Crunchy Kids, we recognized the talent in this person that was making music, and we did a song and video with Lizzo. And all of these unique experiences come from a very real, vibrant, and small community inside of a big city. So I think that's just a really unique, cool part about the Twin Cities.
I think that's true. It's a place where people are kind of globally connected, but it feels like a neighborhood thing. And sometime I'll share a story about Lizzo moving here and living in my uncle's basement for a couple months. I want to move to Andrea. So this region's hosted a lot of events, not just the Final Four. We had the Super Bowl, we had the X Games, we've got all sorts of things. This month is the MLS All-Star Game, or in a couple weeks, I guess. So as we're out there pitching for these other events, what makes this region such an attractive place, whether it's an event that's homegrown that we're creating and growing, or whether it's something like that that's choosing to be here?
For sure. Honestly, on top of you know, the obvious with us having all of this beautiful outdoor space that's so accessible, this incredible food scene, all of the amazing creators that just exist here in all different areas of the spectrum. The collaboration is number one thing you can sell, like, because everyone knows someone, you can get someone bought in, like, and it's just all about building these relationships. But when you're trying to pitch an event or get people to bring something big here, like, my go-to with it is that Minnesotans show up. If you want to do something here, all we have to do is build it and pitch it correctly, and we'll have a mass audience for you. We're so lucky in that way that Minnesotans love to support each other and also just be places and do things. And I sometimes attribute it to the fact that we're stuck inside for so long. So basically from April to December, you want to be outside as much as you can. But just in general, people just love to be a part of the heartbeat and what's happening all around them. And that's not just the Twin Cities region, that is all over the state. If you go to Mankato, if you go to Duluth. So really, it's just all about harnessing the power of your community, and like the way we can show that to all of these conferences and concerts and events and groups that want to be here. It really sets us above the rest because of that personal connection.
That's really cool. I was thinking, Chance, as you shared the story of the place you like to go where people are bird watching. I serve on a board called Conservation Minnesota, and we lost an emeritus board member earlier this year named Darby Nelson. And Darby, back in the 70s, was in our Minnesota legislature and was part of leadership that helped protect. He actually wrote the book on the Minnesota River. And really, everything that we've talked about today has been a real legacy of investment here in Minnesota that you don't see and experience, but it lays the foundation for what's here. So Minnesotans actually invest 2 to 3 times more per capita in the arts and in the outdoors than any other place in Minnesota. And we made that decision as Minnesotans that we value that, we want to invest in it. And when we make decisions like building out our infrastructure and our transit that you toured earlier, that's what helps make us competitive for some of these events, right? And so that's been our legacy, but I want to kind of dig into where we're headed with that legacy. How do we take that torch and make this place even better? So knowing what we do now, you know, the way that we interact with the world is changing faster than ever, right? And we're really reevaluating, I think, all of the systems, all of the communities, and how we can make them more equitable and more inclusive and more welcoming. So I want to take that theme, and I want to start with you, Golnaz. Is there anything in the food world right now that's an effort that's really exciting to you right now, that's maybe on the precipice or is maybe different?
Yeah, I mean, the food world is always changing. I think within the last year, we've been seeing a lot of like food halls and just new, more innovative cuisine, a lot more different, diverse cuisines coming to the city. Because usually what the food scene, when you come to a city, why the food scene is so diverse is because of the people. So now we're seeing like my generation, who are mostly immigrants that are growing up, that grew up in the state, are now bringing what the food they ate at home to the masses. So like Union Hmong Kitchen, Yi Vang is a really popular chef. He's also an immigrant who grew up, and now he's bringing his food to the masses. And we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of just like people like me who are immigrants who have culture, and then they're fusing it with what they grew up with. So having that is really cool, and just seeing all the new different, I think, just the food scene is just kind of coming up with different products, the innovation of it all, the fact that you can, I don't know, you can basically collaborate with anybody you want to, and having these different types of ingredients and products that are coming together based on what people are traveling to see. Social media has been a huge part of that. I know a lot of like chefs and business owners who would go on social media just to see what the competitors are doing, and then they would kind of get the creativity from that. But yeah, like I said before, the innovation that came through the pandemic, people are just kind of turning more into the creative side of the things, and, you know, having more confidence and more accessibility to do what they love to do. I know one foodie who just is opening a brewery, and another one opened up an ice cream shop, and he's doing really well. So it's just like that kind of innovation and creativity that's going on. I think we're going to see more and more of that, and more younger people getting in the food scene. I know I didn't get into it until my like mid to late 20s, but now we're seeing like younger, like early 20s people that are just like really understanding food, appreciating it, spending their money that way. Is really evolving our food scene, and also evolving the way we dine, the way we want to like receive service. That's a huge thing too, and how we want to experience food. I think that's really going to change in the next 5 to 10 years.
That's awesome. Chance, what about in the kind of world of the outdoors, to build off that? Do you see any kind of either interesting people or groups that are doing something to invest in the amenities moving forward? Do you see anything interesting in maybe how people are accessing the outdoors? Anything you'd highlight?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential in just who is using these spaces and who's being represented in those spaces. To tie it back to what you were talking about with the food, one of the episodes that we did was about shore fishing. There's a lot of fishing shows out there, but you might only see a particular type of guest or person represented in those shows. And in my episode, I had the leader of the Hmong Prep Academy's bass fishing team take me out, and then we caught a catfish and then made a traditional Hmong dish right on the shore, which was super cool. Another big thing right now, urban agriculture. There's a lot of movement to create more green spaces, more food sovereignty, people getting closer to the soil and understanding where food comes from, especially in areas where there's food deserts in our community. And then there's a group called Melanin in Motion, which is doing great things to just increase the amount of representation, making stuff more accessible and creating community to go and hang out with people where you can do something you might not be familiar with and still feel included and not so excluded. So Melanin in Motion has monthly bike rides called Slow Roll. They have a ski program, snowboard program as close as Theo Worth Park, which is right here just outside in North Minneapolis, just outside of it. And there's just a lot of great people making moves and understanding the value of what it means to reconnect to nature, the nature that's around us and the nature that's within us, because if anything that this pandemic has proven is that division and fear and uncertainty can really run amok or just spiral out of control if we're not paying attention. And just taking a step back and viewing more simple nature, like nature around us, nature within us. It's healing, and there's a depth to that, and there's a lot of people that are tapping into that, the YMCA being one big organization that's making moves to do so.
That's really cool. I've got a member on my team, Joanne, who during the pandemic realized she could be having a lot of the meetings that she was now doing on Zoom that used to be in person as walks around the lake, and that's that's her kind of default now for a lot of the meetings. And you talked about how that changes the circadian rhythm. And if you're trying to be creative and collaborative, and what is it like when you put yourself in that kind of environment versus on a screen? So that's really cool. Andrea, let's talk about maybe an event that's on the horizon, whether that's something that's growing here, something coming here that you think is going to have a real impact in our region for the years to come.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if anyone saw, but at the end of Women's Final Four, the New York Times covered the tournament and said
article.
that we are the mecca of women's basketball and we're on the rise. And thank you for that break, COVID, because that was an awesome way to kind of set the new stage moving forward. And so we have the Big Ten women's basketball tournament here for the next 2 years. And that event has historically been in Indiana for however long. They don't usually move it. And then they got a new commissioner who wanted to shake things up, who luckily has a home here and wanted to see what we could do. And so now we're starting to get these new events that are going to become repeat events, the men's tournament, and just awesome opportunity to create a new routine and new traditions. But then we also have the Special Olympics 2026 USA Games coming here, which will be an incredible opportunity to not only bring communities from all over the country here, but also to elevate and showcase and just put the spotlight on our community with special needs and disabilities and their athletics, and focus on the inclusion revolution and bringing people together. And because it will take a whole city's lift to get everything up and moving with that event. So really the opportunity to just continue to grow and rally the community to support all of these big new traditions that we're building.
That's really cool. So you referenced that spirit of volunteerism being a reason that we win these bids. You might not know, if you're not familiar with this place, we tend to lead the nation in volunteering and charitable giving. And so we show up that way, and then we make decisions really thoughtfully about these events so that it create some sort of legacy and impact. I think we do that really well, and people recognize that and bring events back for that reason.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I meant to mention that. It is absolutely one of our top assets, and Hands On Twin Cities, who's doing the service project after this, is a huge asset that we have that I think is underutilized across the state and that we could all engage with more.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to end with a lightning round question for everybody. So if people are really interested in digging into more of what our region has to offer, different parts of the community, do you have a place for them a place to recommend that they dig in more that maybe you haven't already mentioned?
For sure. I mean, you can always watch Minnesota Sports and Events website and social media. We're talking about everything that's coming through the area as much as we can. But if any of your local CVBs or Explore Minnesota, they've got those calendars. But even just check out your neighborhood and start getting out into what's going on right in the streets around you.
Awesome. How about you, Golnaz?
Yeah, obviously you can follow us on Instagram at Eat, Drink, Dish. Scroll through all of our content. We post about most of the best food in the Twin Cities. Follow those pages. We also repost a lot of other foodies and influencers in the cities. So if there's people you want to follow, we're just basically like the hub. So we're kind of connected to most of the food and beverage scene. So just connect with us, and hopefully we'll see you at an event soon.
Yeah, you can definitely follow me on Instagram at Chance Connected. Check out all 8 episodes of season 1. You can watch them on YouTube, or you can find them on streaming sites. And we start shooting season 2 this coming month, so you might just see me out in a community near you doing something exciting, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, these are great suggestions. And for the interns, whether you're in the room or you're tuning in virtually, we've actually compiled a list. It's not an exhaustive list because there's so much going on in the region, but of some of the resources that were named and some others that are in the intern guide. So that was in an email ahead of time. You'll get that again later on. I guess I just end by saying, St. Paul Mayor Melvin Carter told us, he kind of challenged all of us at the beginning of the day to build a life you love. And depending on where you are in your life, that may be, easier said than done, right? Because you've got barriers in front of you maybe to living the life that you love. But I guess I'd say, what are you doing to put yourself on a trajectory to live the life you love? And I can kind of feel the energy from the 3 of you. I think you're living those lives. And so congratulations for that. But wherever you decide to take your talents and however you decide to plug into community, I think those were good words to follow. So thank you for being here. Thanks for spending the time with us. Let's give a round of applause to this wonderful panel. If we have time for a question or two, that would be great. Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, interns, thanks for being here. We've got a couple people in our aisles if anyone has questions for the panel here. Otherwise, I've got a couple banked from our viewers online, too. So I'll start with that. So we've talked a lot about all the things that are great about Minneapolis, St. Paul. We've talked a lot about things are changing. But while we have these people here on the panel that touch so many different parts of the region, Noah L. From the Hop-In stage was asking you all to talk a little bit about what aspects of MSP have the most room for improvement, and what are some of the ways that our communities are stepping up to address that.
Does anybody want to jump in?
I think I'll just reiterate kind of what I was saying, the inclusivity, just equity, diversity, inclusion. There's just big gaps that exist for whatever reason, historically, or just identifying as somebody who goes outside, goes camping, goes fishing, mountain bikes, whatever it is. And the more representation that is out there, the more that we can do, the more we can close those gaps.
Yeah, I would just piggyback on that. There's definitely, even though we're like a small city, there's always room for everybody at the table, I think. I think there's a lot of fear of like, oh, it's already been done, it's too saturated. But you're always unique story. Everyone has a unique story, a unique representation. So I would just put that ideation out the door. And people change. I mean, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've seen people come in and out of the industry or the community. So there's always space and there's always room for growth, for new ideas, new creativity, whatever. And so just have that in the back of your head and always in the back of your pocket with anything you do.
Totally agree with them as well. And I think also, especially in the world of events, we have a lot of opportunity when it comes to accessibility and getting people from not just downtown or not just the easy, rich, white neighborhoods to come downtown, check our stuff out, but really making sure that we are connecting with all areas of our city and all communities to include their constituents and be a part of it all.
Well, awesome. Thanks for that. And to wrap us up, I'll ask with my personal favorite question. We do a lot of national studies about people's perceptions of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And when we ask them for one word to describe it, does anyone want to guess what they say? Cold comes up quite often. But to wrap us up, can you two give one word or phrase that you use based on the way that you engage with the community that would describe Minneapolis, St. Paul?
I would say community would be like the top of it. I think we kind of reiterated this during but like people in Minnesota are really gung-ho about supporting their locals, supporting anyone that's from Minnesota. If you're a local maker, local whatever, like people are always down for that over a chain or some corporate something coming down and telling them what to do. I spent most of my young 20s in Uptown, and that was a place where they refused to have any kind of corporate companies come through. This is before Target and everything that is now there,
Apple.
and Starbucks. But yeah, but the association there was like, we want to keep this local. So there's always this love and appreciation for it comes to the arts and the music, and so I forgot what the question was, but yeah, the community was the word. So yeah.
I would say collaboration's my word, because we're just stronger together, and the more we can do, the better we are.
I'd say opportunity or potential. I think stuff is still cooking and growing, and I think we're very good at cultivating future fruit. And I can see it happening in the youth and in the investments that people are making with their time and their dollars to not only just sustain, but perhaps even grow those possibilities.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks. And thanks to the panel. Let's give them a round of applause. And thanks to Matt for moderating also. Everyone, I'll give it to Tim to take us home.
All right, round of applause, Matt and Golnaz and Chance and Andrea, thank you so much. Hey, we're going to take a 5-minute break, tops. We're going to reset the room. We're going to bring everyone back in and get ready for the last bit of programming. And then we're going to engage in an awesome volunteer event with Hands on Twin Cities. So 5 minutes, folks.
'Cause I'm in the stars tonight. So watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Shoes on, get up in the morning, cup of milk, let's rock and roll. Kink out, kick the drum, rolling on like a rolling stone. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Ding dong, call me on my phone, nice tea, and I'll get my ping pong. This is getting heavy, can't hear the bass, boom, I'm ready. Life is sweet as honey, yeah, this beach chain like money. This go all alone, I'm into that, I'm good to go, I'm diamond, you know I glow up. Hey, so let's go. 'Cause I'm in the stars tonight, so watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Hey,
toe or break your camera. I'll do everything I can to help you through. If you're feeling down, I just wanna make you happier, baby. Wish I was around, I just wanna make you happier, baby. We've been doing all this late night talking about anything you wanna till the morning. Now you're in my life. I can't get you off my mind. I've never been a fan of change, but I'd follow you to any place. If it's Hollywood or Bishopsgate, I'm coming too. If you're feeling down, I just wanna make you happier, baby. Wish I was around, I just wanna make you happier, baby. We've been doing all this late night talking about anything you wanna till the morning. Now you're in my life. I can't get you off my mind. 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 I won't even try. To get you off my mind. Get you off my mind. We've been doing all this late night talking about anything you wanna till the morning. Now you're in my life. I can't get you off my mind. Can't get you off my mind. Late night talking. Can't get you off my mind. Late night talking. Won't even try. Late night talking. Can't get you off my mind. All this late night talking.
Everybody get your roll on. I know shorty and she doesn't want no slow song. Had a man last year, life goes on. Haven't let the thing loose, girl, in so long. You been inside, know you like to lay low. I've been peeping what you bringing to the table. Working hard, girl, everything paid for. First, last phone bill, car, no cable. With your phone out, gotta hit them angles. With your phone out, snapping like you Fable. And you showing off, but it's alright. And you showing off, but it's alright. It's a short life, yeah. That's a real one in your reflection. Without a follow, without a mention. You really piping up on these. You gotta be nice for what to these. I understand. You got 100 bands, you got a baby Benz, you got some bad friends. High school pics, you was even bad then. You ain't stressing off no lover in the past tense. You already had them. Work at 8 a.m., finish round 5. All down, you don't see them outside. Yeah, they don't really be the same offline. You know dog days, you know hard times. Doing overtime for the last month. Saturday, call the girls, get them gassed up. Gotta hit the club, gotta make that jump. Gotta hit the club like you hit them angles. With your phone out, snapping like you Fable. And you showing off, but it's alright.
Welcome, everybody. Come on back to the main stage. We're going to do some closing remarks and an activity announcement. We would love to have you back in the arena.
Yo, boy! I'm me! Watch the breakdown.
That's a real
like the things you said to me. Who is it that's got you all gassed up? Yeah. Changing your opinion on me. I was only gone for the last few months, but you don't have the time to wait on me. Yeah. I tried with you.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back. We are almost done. Thank you so much for your energy and your enthusiasm today. So, do we have any General Mills interns here? Are they all? Oh, they're all hiding somewhere. How about Medtronic? There we go. Okay. How about Bremer Bank? One. Great. Excel. Do we have Excel? There we go. All right. Keeping the lights on. Polaris. Okay, we got Polaris. How about Schwann's? There we go. They're loud. Ecolab. Very well done. Excellent. And Thomson Reuters. All right, cool. You know, there are 25 corporate partners who helped bring this event together, so I want to thank them for their support. A question for you, in any of the breakouts, did we discuss singing? No. Okay. Show of hands, how many of you have been in a choir or really like to sing? A few hands go up. Well, did you know Minneapolis and St. Paul has more amateur and professional choirs than any market in the entire United States? There are more choirs here per capita than any other market you could ever choose to live in. So if you like the idea of singing, maybe stay here. So anyway, what an awesome day. I want to thank Mayor Carter for that great piece of inspiration this morning, reminding us that we have the power to be curious, right? And we have the power to explore and understand and become our true selves. And one of the things I hope you all can be curious about doing is making connections and networking, because honestly, that's how it works. We know that you have big dreams, opportunities are vast, there's a lot at stake. People my age are counting on people like you to help change the world. And honestly, where you choose to make change matters, and who you choose to make change with matters. So that's why, if it isn't clear, we hope you all will make the decision to start your career here in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We need you, and we need you here. All right, so let's take a moment and give a round of applause to all of our fabulous speakers, our amazing volunteers, the resilient staff and the vendors who made this event possible, our camera operators, our sound guys. A round of applause. Big shout out to the team running everything online. Thank you for all of your help. So we're going to end the day with the most interactive part, whether you're here in the arena or tuning in online. We're going to help build your networking muscles. You know, statistics show most people get a job opportunity or their next career milestone through the strength of their networks, and I can prove it. Just last week, my own network delivered some interesting opportunities for me, so I'm going to be making some moves myself, and it's only because of people I know and people helping out and reaching out. So right now, we're going to leverage all of you and the group effort here to do some more networking. If you're online, you can participate via Hop-In. Just click the People tab on the left-hand menu and head on over to the People tab, and our moderators are going to get a networking event going there. For those of us here in the Target Center, you know, one of the more important ways people build their networking or making impact here in our region is by volunteering. So that's why we're so pleased to have Tracy Nielsen from Hands on Twin Cities with us today. Tracy is going to lead many of you through a volunteer activity. And if you signed up to be part of that activity, great. It's going to happen over here on the floor. If you didn't sign up, we'll still take you. We got a lot of room. So that's it. Thank you all so much for your time and your attention. Let's make our way down to the floor for this great networking opportunity with Hands on Twin Cities. And thank you all so much for being here today.
girly one. You ever see a girl that just walk up like a poke? Late boys, late girls, late beer shade. Bossy, she start to move, it's a big fate. She met me holler off a gold blast, make me say. Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girly one, walk up in your. Peter pit for pole and pole pit for all. Like a walk up in your as your rain start to fall. Girl tell me come here, quit, don't stall. She wanna see me bustle like we out scheme on. What? Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girly one, walk up in sweet girl. Little butt she out pit net. Skin smooth hair long. Tit tit. Friends long said them more yeah quick fit. That was a big trick. The girls the one box. Said let she do what she please with my laptop. What? The girls the one box. Ain't got no time for the snapshots. Jesus, whoa. Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girly won't walk up in your. Get a pit for pole, a pole pit for all. Like a walk up in your as your rain start to fall. Girl tell me come here, quit, don't stall. She wanna see me bustle like we out scheme on. What? Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girly won't walk up in your. Send it round like around the boat. What? Start to shit, girl. Start to. Send it round like around the boat. It's just round and round and round and round and round and round. You make stomach mama, round with me, jumma jumma. Face be a jump, Alabama. Man, they ask me where she from and she did tell me gala. Nearly pop out my eyes to Louisiana. All I want for Christmas is that big bossy tea. A little slice hand, gold chain and no ring. I ain't care if she rob, you can bring it in the cling. Santa Claus laugh when I sing, cause I hold a rope. I want my North Pole in your South Hole. She ain't a good girl, like to play mole. She love a beat foul, then a beat stroll. Stalky stuff with nothing but cool. Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girl, it won't walk up in your. Peter pit for pole, a pole pit for all. Like a walk up in your. As your rain start to fall. The girl tell me come here, quit, don't stall. She wanna see me bustle like we out sky mode. Face beat so sweet, no flaws. Sweet girl, it won't walk up in your. Send it round like around the boat. Start to shit, girl, start to shit. Just send it round like around the boat. It's just round and round and round and round and round. Now say here, this one of the songs here so for these sweet girls, cold blind. This one, yeah, boss ain't gonna be big to be ball, you know, this gonna be active. Boxy went.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
I got the horses in the bag, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, ha, you can whip your Porsche. I've been in the valley, you ain't been up off that porch now. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Riding on a tractor, lean all in my bladder. Cheated on my baby, you can go and ask her. My life is a movie, but riding in boobies. Cowboy hat from Gucci, Wrangler on my booty. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
Hat down, cross town, living like a rock star. Spend a lot of money on my brand new guitar. Baby's got a habit, diamond rings and Fendi sports bras. Riding down Rodeo in my Maserati sports car. God knows stress, I've been through all that. I'm like a Marlboro man, so I kick on back. Wish I could roll on back to that old town road. I wanna ride till I can't no
Yeah,
more.
I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more. I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
You seen it. I bought a crib just for the closet, both his and hers. I want it, I got it. 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 You like my hair? Gee, thanks, just bought it. I see it, I like it. I want it, I got it.
My receipts be looking like phone numbers. If it ain't money, then wrong number. Black card is my business card. The way it be setting the tone for me. I don't be the brave, but I be like, put it in the bag, yeah. When you see the max, they stacked up like my, yeah. Shoot, go from the south to the booth. Make it all back in one loop. Give me the loot. Never mind, I got the juice. Nothing but never we shoot. Look at my neck, look at my neck. Ain't got enough money to pay me respect. Ain't no budget when I'm on the set. If I like it, then that's what I get, yeah.
I want it, I got it. 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 You like my hair? Gee, thanks, just bought it. I see it, I like it. I want it, I got
Narrow
it.
to the heart. I never kissed a mouth that tastes like yours. Strawberries and something more. Ooh yeah, I want it all. Lipstick on my guitar. Fill up the engine, we can drive real far. Go dancing underneath the stars. Ooh yeah, I want it all. Got me feeling like I wanna be that guy. I wanna kiss your eyes. I wanna drink that smile. I wanna feel like like my soul's on fire. I wanna stay up all day and all night. Yeah, you got me singing like, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. And we'll say, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back into the car. On the backseat in the moonlit dark. Wrap me up between your legs and arms. Ooh, I can get enough. You know you could tear me apart. Put me back together and take my heart. I never thought that I could love this hard. Ooh, I can get enough. Ooh, you got me feeling like I wanna be that guy. I wanna kiss your eyes. I wanna drink that smile. I wanna feel like my soul's on fire. I wanna stay up all day and all night. Yeah, you got me singing like, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. And we'll say, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. Baby, you burn so hot, you make me shiver with the fire. You got this thing we started, I don't want it to stop. You know you make me shiver. Baby, you burn so hot, you make me shiver with the fire. You got this thing we started, I don't want it to stop. You know you make me shiver. Yeah, you got me singing like, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back. Oh no, say, ooh, I love it when you do it like that. And when you're close up, give me the shivers. Oh baby, you wanna dance till the sunlight cracks. And when they say the party's over, then we'll bring it right back.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. 'Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands in the air, make them stay there.
Ludacris going in on the verse, cause I never been defeated and I won't stop now. Keep your hands up, get them in the sky for the homies that ain't making it, my folks locked down. I never went nowhere, but they saying Luda's back. Blame it on that contour, the hood call it Luda Yak. And I'm on this foolish track,
like strippers' booties go. My verses still be serving, tight like a million virgins. Last time on a college remix, now I'm on the original version. Can't never count me out, y'all better count me in. Got 20 bank accounts, accountants count me in. Make millions every year, the South's champion. Cause all I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. And they stay there, and they say yeah, and they stay there. Cause all I do is win, win, win. And if you going in, put your hands up.
And I know how bad it must hurt to see me like this, but it gets worse. Now you're out here looking like regret. Ain't too proud to beg, second chance you'll never get. And yeah, I know how bad it must hurt to see me like this, but it gets worse. Now payback is bad chick, and baby, I'm the baddest. Stop playing with a savage. Can't have this, can't have this. And it'd be nice of me to take it easy on ya, but nah. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Being so bad got me feeling so good. Showing you up like I know that I would. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Feeling inspired 'cause the tables have turned. Yeah, I'm on fire and I know that it burns. Baby, fineness is the way to kill. Tell me how I feel, but it's such a bitter pill. And yeah, I know you thought you had bigger, better things, but right now this is 'cause the grass is greener under me. Brightest technicolor, I can tell that you can see. And yeah, I know how bad it must hurt to see me like this, but it gets worse. Not payback is bad chick, and baby, I'm the baddest. Stop playing with a savage. Can't have this, can't have this. And it'd be nice of me to take it easy on ya, but nah. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Being so bad got me feeling so good. Showing you up like I know that I would. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Feeling inspired 'cause the tables have turned. Yeah, I'm on fire and I know that it burns. Talk that talk, baby. Better walk that walk, baby. If you talk that talk, baby. Better walk that walk, baby. Oh yeah. Talk that talk, baby. Better walk that walk, baby. If you talk that talk, baby. Better walk that walk, baby. Baby, I'm sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Being so bad got me feeling so good. Showing you up like I know that I would. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Baby, I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. Feeling inspired 'cause the tables have turned. Yeah, I'm on fire and I know that it burns.
Good for you, I guess you moved on really easily. You found a new girl and it only took a couple weeks. Remember when you said that you wanted to give me the world? And good for you, I guess that you've been working on yourself. I guess the therapist I found for you should really help. Now you can be a better man for your brand new girl. Well, good for you, you look happy and healthy. Not me, if you ever cared to ask. Good for you, you're doing great out there without me, baby. Gotta wish that I could do that. I lost my mind, I've spent the night crying on the floor of my bedroom. But you're so unaffected, I really don't get it. I guess good for you. Good for you, I guess you're getting everything you want. You bought a new car and your career's really taking off. It's like we never even happened, baby. Tell me what is up with that. And good for you, it's like you never even met me. Remember when you swore to God I was
love you so. Hey, that's what you'll say. You'll tell me, baby, baby, please don't go away. But when I play, I never stay. So every girl that I meet, yeah, this is what I say. Run, run, run away, baby. Before I put my spell on you. You better get away, darling. 'Cause everything you heard is true. Your poor little heart will end up alone. 'Cause Lord knows I'm a rolling stone. So you better run away, baby. Yeah. Well, let me think. What should I do? So many eager young bunnies that I'd like to pursue. Now, even though they're eating out the palm of my hand, there's only one carrot and they all gotta share it. I love you so. Hey, that's what you'll say. You'll tell me, baby, baby, please don't go away.